And we are now into week 12 of the 2025 NFL season. And last week, I said I needed a big week and a good week in the worst way possible. And ask and you shall receive. How about a 12-3 week for me? My best week since week 2. Still not looking great as far as the playoff picture goes. And it's not to say that I won't make the playoffs, but I keep having good weeks like this, and I gain some more momentum. Anything is possible. After all, I have won the last 2 Super Bowls in this tournament for a reason. But yeah, keeping up the pace, 105-59 on the year, and last week was the most difficult week of the season, at least so far. And this week does have a couple of games that I was unsure of, but mostly it looks pretty favorable in my opinion. So let's not waste any more time. These are my Week 12 picks, 2025 NFL season. Let's jump right into it, and we actually do kick off the week with quite a difficult one. We got the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans down in Houston to start off on Thursday Night Football. So the Bills are coming off of a wild one over Tampa, 44-32, a game in which Josh Allen had 6 total touchdown passes, 3 passing and 3 rushing, and he also threw for 317 passing yards. And yeah, Buffalo, they're still a really good team, but I am very concerned about that defense right there, considering the Bucs were down most of, if not all of, their weapons for Baker Mayfield. As for the Texans, they beat the Titans, but they struggled in that game against the Titans, who are objectively the worst team in the NFL. So if I'm a Texans fan, I'm being like, okay, we got the win, but I'm not feeling too great about the win right there. So yeah, the reason that this one took me a bit to think about is because the Texans have still the number 1 defense in the league, and I really don't know how much they're going to be able to handle with Buffalo's offense right there, because I think Josh Allen alone is just too much for him. And if they can get Cook going in this game, I think that's going to serve as a factor as well. Cook has been a very big factor for Buffalo's offense, and I always say a running back is a quarterback's best friend. And I think Buffalo does have that 1-2 punch right there. And they're doing this all without a true number 1 threat, but they are led by some veteran groups of receivers right there, and that's what makes Buffalo's offense so lethal right there. You got the reigning MVP working with a bunch of veterans, and I don't know if CJ Stroud is going to play in this game. I doubt that he will, because he's still listed in concussion protocol. So you're looking at Davis Mills getting the start again for Buffalo. The Bills averaging 29.2 points a game. The Texans are scoring 22 points a game, but Houston only allows 16 a game. And I think if Houston wins the turnover battle here, which I think is plausible because of the defense they got, they're in good shape to win. And Josh Allen has been turnover prone at some points this season, but again, to me, it comes down to who I trust to score more points and whose offense I trust more to get going. And in my case, it's Buffalo. I'm going to take the Bills to win this one over the Texans because, like I said, if they struggled against Tennessee, then I don't know if they're going to be quite ready for a team like Buffalo. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Bills to win in a pretty close one. Then we got the Sunday slate of games, and we got one of my favorite rivalries in the NFL, and I'm not going to put this as rivalry of the week, even though I'd like to, but just the fact that these two teams are pretty much going in opposite directions prevents me from doing so. But yeah, one of my favorite rivalries, Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau. So the Vikings coming off of a tough loss to the Chicago Bears at home on Sunday. They are 4-6 on the year, I believe, and their season is basically done. They are most likely not going to win the NFC North unless something ridiculous happens in the final 7 weeks of the season. But yeah, Minnesota and their playoff hopes as a wild card are rapidly diminishing. So Minnesota, they're looking cooked right now. As for Green Bay, they are 6-3-1 on the season. They needed that win badly in the worst way possible against the New York Giants, and they got it. That saved Green Bay right there because they had lost 2 in a row going into that game, and that win over, even if it was against a trash Giants team, they needed that win badly, and they got it. So, the thing with the Packers, though, is that Jordan Love did leave in the game with a shoulder injury, but he came back, and when Malik Willis came in, the Packers looked okay on offense, but they were still able to get things going. So I don't know if Jordan Love is going to be 100% good to go, but I do expect him to play in this game. Then you got Josh Jacobs with a knee injury. I don't know if he's going to be 100 to go there. I would not play Josh Jacobs this week. So for Green Bay, they need to get it done on defense, which they are absolutely capable of doing. That defense, when it steps up, is one of the best in the league, and they've shown it several times throughout the season. So they need to get it done on defense, and I think going up against J.J. McCarthy, who it looks like he doesn't really handle heavy fronts all that well, I think that's going to serve as a really good advantage right there for the Packers right there, because Justin Jefferson, like, if they can make J.J. McCarthy throw to his other guys, I like Green Bay's chances of winning. Justin Jefferson only has 2 touchdowns on the entire season, and he's often regarded as the best receiver in the league. So definitely keep several bodies up on Justin Jefferson and make J.J. McCarthy throw to other guys, because if you have the Vikings beat you on the ground, they're going to have a better chance at beating you. And I think Green Bay does have the defense to do that. So for that matter, I am slowly losing faith in Minnesota. I'm going to go ahead and take the Packers to win this one. I mean, they lost their last 2 home games, and the Packers would love nothing more than to snap that against one of their biggest rivals ever, possibly their biggest rival ever, in the Minnesota Vikings. I just don't see Green Bay losing 3 in a row at home. So this will be my spread of the week. I do think the Vikings will make it a close game, but I got Green Bay winning, and I got them barely covering against the Vikings. 27-20 is my score prediction for the Packers. I got them taking out Minnesota. Then we got one of the easier ones, the New York Giants and the Detroit Lions. This one is up in Ford Field. Short, sweet, to the point. I am taking the Lions to win this one. The Giants, they're 2-9 on the year. I don't know if they're starting Jameis Winston. I don't know if they're starting Russell Wilson. I don't know if Jackson Dart is still in concussion protocol, but to me, it doesn't even matter. Whoever the Giants start at quarterback, they're screwed. Detroit, they're coming off of a ugly game against the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday night. They lost 16-9 in a rare defensive game between those two. Detroit went 0 for 5 on 4th down in that game against Philly, which is really rare to see since Dan Campbell is the master of converting 4th down. So to see them go 0 for 5 in that department is pretty shocking. You know, so the Lions, I mean, I think I may have figured out the problem with Detroit. They don't really fare well. I mean, at least they don't fare as well outside in colder weather than they do when they're at home, which is in a dome. But I think this is going to serve as a big advantage for Detroit because they are at home. They're used to it. I'm going to take the Lions to win this one soundly over the Giants. Another easy one here. We got the Seahawks and the Titans, and without hesitation, I am locking up the Seahawks, and I am not looking back. Seattle is coming off of a very tough loss to the Rams, and despite Sam Darnold throwing 4 picks against the Rams, he still got them in position to win the game, and then they badly shanked a field goal from 60+, which is not an easy kick to make at all. But the Seahawks, like, if they did 1 or 2 things differently against the Rams, they could have pulled out the win. But that just shows you that the Seahawks, they're still a legit team. Sam Darnold just had a really bad game. It was an anomaly, in my opinion. The Titans are nowhere near the Rams level. As a matter of fact, they are the worst team in the NFL. And Cam Ward against that aggressive Seahawks defense, that's all I need to tell you right there. Seahawks easily my lock of the week. And then going from lock of the week to my game of the week personally. Indianapolis Colts at 8-2, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 5-5. So the Colts, as I just said, 8-2. They're coming off of their bye week, and the last time they played was in Germany against the Falcons, where they won in overtime. And Jonathan Taylor, if you're not convinced that he's an MVP candidate, or perhaps even the front runner of MVP, that game should have absolutely made you a believer in it. He had almost 300 yards total, which included the game winner. And that is the reason that the Colts are 8-2. He is the engine of that offense. He is making Daniel Jones' life so much easier. They are scoring 32 points a game, and they are allowing 20 a game. And this Colts team is absolutely a threat to at least make it to the AFC Championship. This Colts team is for real, man. You got Daniel Jones being a playmaker, on top of that as well, working really well with Shane Steichen. He has thrown a bit more interceptions lately, when before he was being very careful with the ball. So that's, a little higher than you'd like to see from Daniel Jones. But yeah, I mean, you can't take away the season that Daniel Jones has had. He is my pick to win Comeback Player of the Year by leaps and bounds, so yeah. I will say this about the Colts, going up against a defense that forces turnovers. They need to be careful right there because, like I said, Daniel Jones has thrown a bit more interceptions lately. Kansas City is capable of causing turnovers, so they really need to be careful in that department right there. But overall, this Colts team is really good. As for Kansas City, all right, let's talk about the Chiefs for a minute. So, all throughout the year, even when they were 0-2 to start off the year, I said I am not worrying about the Chiefs. I am not, saying that they're cooked and that their reign of terror is over. They may be 0-2, but it was early in the season. There's still 15 weeks to go. I think Kansas City's going to be fine. But then they, and for a while, it looked like they were proving me right. Because then they ended up winning 5 of 6 to find themselves at 5-3. And we're like, okay, these are the Chiefs that we all know and love. But now they've lost 2 in a row. They lost to the Buffalo Bills. Then they had their bye week. And a very, very rare loss for Andy Reid coming off of a bye week to the Denver Broncos last Sunday. And now, all of a sudden, we're past midpoint. And the Chiefs are 5-5. To put this in perspective, the Chiefs have not been 5-5 since 2015. And 2015 was the last time the Chiefs did not win the AFC West. Patrick Mahomes had never been 500 or worse at this point in the season in his entire career. And, another thing about Kansas City is that, like last year, where they were winning a lot of close games, okay? The Chiefs were 12-0 in one-score games last year, okay? 80% of the time, they were winning one-score games. They were winning all them close games. You know what the Chiefs' record in one-score games this year is? 0-5. Yeah, all 5 of the Chiefs' losses this year have been by one score. And if you recall, before the season began, I sat down here and I said that karma would be the number one reason that the Chiefs would not go back to the Super Bowl. You can chop it down to, well, they've played in the last 3 Super Bowls and they play in the AFC Championship every year. But see, that's what I'm talking about. Karma is eventually going to get to them. And this year, karma has hit them pretty good. They lost all these games that they would normally win last year. And then you can counter that by saying, well, all 5 of Kansas City's wins, they've won by double digits. Yeah, that's true, but here's the thing about that, okay? The Chiefs winning by double digits is a huge double-edged sword, okay? On one hand, it's like, yeah, it's great that they're, winning soundly and they're winning convincingly, and people can't say, well, they barely won and they're getting ref help, So that's the good right there. However, the bad is that it shows that Kansas City is a bit of a one-dimensional team. that tells me that, hey, if the Chiefs aren't racking up points early on, and they're not building a huge lead early on, and they're not putting their opponents in an early grave early on, and if their opponent does the same to them, they don't have comeback game. So them winning by double digits, huge double-edged sword. Okay? So if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'd be concerned about them right now. I wouldn't be neurotically concerned like, oh, the sky's falling, the season's over, they're not making the playoffs, not going back to the Super Bowl, oh, you know, the dynasty's over. No, I'm not saying that. But if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm concerned, okay? I still think Kansas City's going to be in the playoffs, okay? I still think that they can find a way to make the playoffs. All they have to do is get on a run. But if I'm being honest with you, I am concerned if I'm a Chiefs fan, okay? Mahomes has never lost 3 straight, and there's a distinct possibility that the Chiefs can do that this week because the Colts are a very good team. If they can't stop the run, which is really a problem, they're going to have a miserable day against Jonathan Taylor because Jonathan Taylor is going to run his wheels off against Kansas City, and the Chiefs won't be able to stop it. Yeah, and also the nail in the coffin, Mahomes, he was having his most efficient season since 2022, but like the past couple of seasons, his numbers have been pretty pedestrian, and if they're not stretching down the field, if they're not, moving the chains down the field and they're relying on big chunk plays, even with the band all being back together, because a lot of people are saying, oh, wait till Rashee Rice comes back, oh, wait till they get Xavier Worthy back. Well, guess what? Those two are back, and the Chiefs are still being pedestrian on offense. So if they are relying on Mahomes to carry through the load, and they are relying on Mahomes to even be the lead rusher of this game and not Isaiah Pacheco being an X factor, Kansas City is a one-dimensional team. And that's a huge mismatch right there for Kansas City. So this is why this game is so difficult for me to pick, because on one hand, I really want to take the Colts here because they're well-rested. They're coming off their bye week. They got the defense to limit Kansas City. They got the offense that can beat the snot out of them. But to me, I don't know. I can't pick I can't in good nature pick the Chiefs to lose 3 straight games. I'm telling you this right now. If this game was in Indianapolis, I would absolutely take the Colts. But the fact that it is an Arrowhead, and the fact that the Chiefs have lost 2 straight, and they are looking to get that ugly loss out of their mouth, and they've lost 2 straight, now they come back home. Mahomes has never lost 3 straight, and they are coming back home. I'm sorry. I want to pick the Colts here, but I'm going to take Kansas City. So, yeah, I don't blame anybody, and I will not argue with anybody who takes Indianapolis here, but Kansas City, they just find ways to win. They're dealing with a lot of adversity right now, but if there's a team that I trust to overcome adversity, it is the Chiefs. They have shown adversity. They have gone through adversity in the Mahomes era, if you remember, like even in 2019 where he missed some time due to injury. So it's like, it's not like they haven't had adversity. They have. They have just had very little of it, but if there's one team that I trust to overcome it, it's them. So I'm going to go ahead and begrudgingly take Kansas City because I just think they're the right pick in my opinion. But again, I will not argue with anybody who picks the Colts. Alright, I spent a lot of time on that one. Next, we got the New England Patriots and the Cincinnati Bengals out in Cincinnati. And I'm going to keep this one short as well. I'm taking New England to win pretty convincingly here. The Bengals are atrocious. And okay, here's the thing with me, alright? I'm a Steeler fan, and honestly, I just don't have it in me to yell to yell about the Bengals, to get energetic about them or anything, or to heckle them or anything. Because they're the team in the division that I hate the least. I really don't even hate the Bengals all that much. Because like I said, the Steelers have a wide margin over them in the all-time series. And they've met in the playoffs twice. Steelers won both games. Steelers own them in Cincinnati. They own them in Pittsburgh. They just own them, period. They always take over the stadium. So, I really don't have it in me to yell at the Bengals or to make fun of them, because to me, at this point, to me, it's like picking on the special needs kid in school. You just don't do it. But I will say this about the Bengals. Jamar Chase is a fucking punk. Like, he's so stupid. Did he really think he's going to be able to lie about spitting in the face of Jalen Ramsey when there's 4K high-def camera footage of him doing it and think that the league was actually going to believe him? He's so fucking stupid, man. And because of that, because he can't control himself, because he can't control his emotions, now he's suspended for a game. He got decked in the face, rightfully so, by Jalen Ramsey, who is now my favorite player on the Steelers. Okay? I've been struggling to find a favorite player on this team, but if I had to pick one, it's easily Jalen Ramsey right now. But yeah, Jamar Chase is a fucking idiot. And yeah, Zach Taylor, I get it. Zach Taylor absolutely needs to be fired as well. But guess what? Zach Taylor didn't tell Jamar Chase to go ahead and punch him in the spin in his face right there. That's on you, bro. And now because of you, you're missing a game, and you're going to miss $500,000 worth of money against the Patriots, who are moving the ball very efficiently. They continue to be productive on offense. Chase got rightfully suspended, as I said. And with Stephon Diggs changing the culture of the wide receiver room, Bengals allowing 33 points a game. Yeah, I'm taking New England all day, and I am not looking back. Moving on. Alright, we got my matchup now. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Chicago Bears. This one is in Chicago. Alright, first of all, let's get this out of the way. The Steelers have not won in Chicago since 1995, and that's actually the only time the Steelers have ever beaten the Bears in Chicago. So that's pretty wild right there. But the other wild thing about this is that even though the Steelers are coming off of that blowout win over the Bengals, where they got 2 defensive touchdowns, a pick 6 from Kyle Duggar, and a fumble 6 return for a touchdown that went a long way. Offense, in my opinion, still did not look great. 14 points off the defense, which means only 20 points of the offense. I mean, granted, I think 20 points could be enough to win you a game, but that's just how the Steelers are. They still think that doing the bare minimum on offense is going to win you games when you need to do more. Offensive play calling looked awful again. And, well, maybe not awful, but it was just very basic and boring once again. And, you know, when you're not really having your weapons step out, it's going to lead to offensive production like that. Which leads me to Aaron Rodgers. Now, Aaron Rodgers got hurt in the game against the Bears, and everyone's suspecting that it's a small fracture and that there might be a chance for him to play in this game against the Chicago Bears. Okay, Mason Rudolph came in, and the offense moved the chains a little better under him, in my opinion. Okay, so you're probably wondering what I'm thinking about the Aaron Rodgers injury. Well, I'll tell you what I think about it. I don't care. Okay? I don't mean to be so blunt, but that's just what I think. I don't care if Aaron Rodgers is hurt. Because I said, when they got him, the guy's 42 years old. He had a major injury that took him out for practically the whole season a couple years ago that made him miss the whole season. And the guy just doesn't know when to quit. The guy should have retired after that injury. I've been saying that for 2 years. I said that the day after that injury happened. I said in this very room, in front of this very webcam, Aaron Rodgers needs to retire after that game. It's 2 years later, and now he gets a wrist injury that is very well a fracture, and there's a distinct possibility that he may not play in this game against the team that he owns in the Chicago Bears. I don't care if he plays in this game. I don't care if he does not play in this game, because honestly, I don't feel bad for the guy. I really don't. Oh my God, Mac, how could you be saying that about Aaron Rodgers? He's the quarterback of your team. He knew full and well what he was signing up for when he came here in the offseason. He knew full and well the risk that he was taking, knowing what he was getting when he came here. Alright? The guy has nothing else to prove. He is about as much of a lock of a first ballot Hall of Famer as you can possibly imagine. And knowing how this defense does against teams on the rise or teams that are elite, and seeing how the Steelers have done against those teams over the years, with the exceptions of Indianapolis, and if you want to say New England, okay, but they were 500 when we played them. This defense continues to give up huge amounts of plays, allow huge amounts of points, and I don't feel bad for the guy. I really don't. He doesn't know when to quit, doesn't know when to call it a career, and now he's looking at a situation to where he can miss some time. So I really don't care if he plays in this game, because this offense is going to be plain, vanilla, basic, and boring with or without him. That's all there is to it. I don't mean to sound harsh. I don't mean to sound blunt. I don't mean to sound like a meanie head or anything. I'm telling you what I think about that injury. I could care less if he's hurt, because he shouldn't even be on the team, if I'm being honest with you. The Steelers could very well have one of the young franchise quarterbacks that are currently playing in the league right now, but because ownership is so stubborn and they're so pig-headed to just sacrifice a year or two to get those franchise quarterbacks, this is the situation that they're in now. They are relying on name value, past reputations, and what players have done in their past to carry this team forward. They did the exact same thing last year with Russell Wilson. I said all this in my Aaron Rodgers video, and I got called a hater for it, and I got called butthurt and salty about it. Oh, because Aaron Rodgers has a Lombardi over the Steelers. Well, look what happened now. Didn't you get what you wanted, Aaron? Didn't you get what you wanted, guys? But, hey, you know, what the hell do I know, right? Yeah. I just like hearing myself talk. I just have an agenda with the Steelers, right? Anyway, with the Chicago Bears, yeah, Chicago started off the year 0-2 as well, and everyone's like, well, the Bears suck. They're back to reality. Ben Johnson was a bad hire for them. And all the Bears have done since then was win 7 out of 8. They had a bad game in Baltimore, but that doesn't take away the fact the Bears have won 7 out of 8, and they're 7-3. Best record through 10 games, I think, since 2018. The Bears are playing really good football. I know their schedule hasn't been that impressive, but let me ask you this. Would the Bears have beaten any of those teams, and would they have won any of those games in the recent past? No, they wouldn't have. They're doing something right. Caleb Williams is a very smart decision-making quarterback, and he is really being effective with pushing the ball down forward. And I will say that Chicago's defense isn't all that great, but don't worry, it doesn't matter with this offense, okay? If this offense can only get 20 points on the Cincinnati Bengals, who allow 33 points a game, okay, so they're not even getting 2/3 of that, it's not going to be a problem for the Bears. And I know Chicago's a little banged up on wide receivers as well, but, you know, with the way this Steeler defense plays, they could make, like, their 8th option or their 10th option, or, like, even a freaking lineman look like a valuable weapon for Caleb Williams. So, yeah, even if Aaron Rodgers plays in this game, which I really don't care at this point if he plays or not, I'm going to go ahead and take the Chicago Bears to win. They have the hotter hand. The Steelers, like I said, they got the win over the Bengals, but my mind hasn't changed. This team still needs to do a complete 180 to win my trust back fully, and they're not even close to getting that yet. You guys can't win in Chicago. You can't. You've only beaten the Bears one time ever at Soldier Field, and that was 30 years ago. I'm taking Chicago to win. I don't care if you don't like it or not. I'm taking Chicago to win. Next up, we got the New York Jets and the Baltimore Ravens. Do I even need to explain this one? Baltimore is just going to fucking bury them in this game. So, the cupcake schedule continues for the Ravens. They played the New York Jets. They struggled against the Cleveland Browns a bit, but, you know, you can always count on the Browns doing Browns things. Mark Andrews had that. Yeah, Mark Andrews, you know, one of Lamar's no weapons, and the guy who Ravens fans sent death threats to after the playoffs last year, had that incredible touchdown run on 4th down when they faked the tush push, and he took it the entire way for a score. And now Ravens fans are pretending like they never said those things about Mark Andrews and that they love him again, and, you know, they always loved him. Yeah, I remember when you sent death threats to him on Instagram and you directly DM'd him and on Twitter. But, hey, you know, I guess we're the scumbag fan base, right? But anyway, Baltimore, you should have absolutely no trouble in this game. The Jets are complete and utter trash, to put it politely. I don't care if they get 3 extra days of rest. They're playing the Ravens in Baltimore, who've won 4 in a row. So yeah, the Ravens will be back in first place after this Sunday, and the Steelers will officially have blown it. But hey, Steeler fans, you should be used to this by now. Later slate of Sunday games, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Arizona Cardinals. This one is in Glendale. So Jacksonville, I don't get it. They beat the brakes off the LA Chargers 35-6, literally a week after they had a spectacular choke job against the Houston Texans when CJ Stroud wasn't even in that game. I don't get it. Jacksonville, they're kind of like becoming the Falcons a bit, where I have no clue when to pick them. But they're playing Arizona this week. The Cardinals, I gave them way too much credit in the offseason. I said they could sneak into the playoffs as a wild card. And they got off to a nice start, but their wins really weren't all that eye-popping. And it looked like they were just due for regression, but I didn't think they'd fall this hard. They are injured, so I will cut them a little bit of a break, but to me it doesn't matter. Trevor Lawrence, to me, he keeps both teams in the game. Like, you're never truly out of the game if Trevor Lawrence starts with Jacksonville, because he keeps both the Jaguars and the opponents in the playoff, in the game at the same time. With his decision making, he does have some boneheaded turnovers at times. And I will say, even though Travis Hunter is going to miss the rest of the season that I heard, Jacoby Myers has stepped in, and he has looked like an absolute stud since Jacksonville got him at the trade deadline. You know, Jacoby Myers, the guy that I wanted the Steelers to get at the trade deadline, but I guess they're okay with the receiver room that they got, but hey, that's none of my business. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take Jacksonville to win this game. I like their defense stepping up here. I think that they're a bit more defined offensively than Arizona is. The Cardinals, their defense will keep them in this game, but in the end, I got Jacksonville pulling away and picking up the dub against the Cardinals. Alright, toilet bowl of the week. Browns are in their 3rd toilet bowl of the season, 2nd in the last 3 weeks, so they're catching up to the Dolphins in that range. They're flying on out to Vegas to take on the Raiders. So, how about Shedeur Sanders for the Cleveland Browns? Coming in for a hurt Dylan Gabriel. Yeah, Shedeur Sanders. He only completed 25% of his passes. Yeah, an astounding 4 out of 16 for Shedeur Sanders. He got sacked twice. He had a fumble. He threw a pick. He had intentional grounding. And he had a stellar 13.5 passer rating. What a job by Shedeur Sanders. You know that he would have a better passer rating if he just spiked the ball into the ground every single offensive play. I'm not kidding. He would have had a better passer rating if he just did that the entire game. So yeah, Shedeur Sanders is a bum. I don't want to hear all the excuses for him. Okay, if you're that confident that he's going to be a great starter, then you should have no excuse for him playing like absolute dog shit. Especially when the Ravens defense is falling off really hard and isn't what it used to be. So I don't want to hear the excuses, quite frankly. Cleveland needs to get Junkins going in this game, and they really need to have their run game step up, and Myles Garrett needs to step up like he has for the entire season. And then you got the Vegas Raiders, who are coming off of that loss to the Dallas Cowboys on Monday night. So I think if the bad Geno Smith shows up, Cleveland does have a chance this game, because Geno Smith has been as inconsistent as you can get all season from a quarterback. So I will say Smith against the Browns front on paper should be a mismatch. But to me, it comes down to whose defense can get off the field more in this game. And if you ask me, it's the Raiders defense that I trust a bit more, because they actually do have somewhat of an offense. It's just very inconsistent. Whereas Cleveland's offense is just complete and utter garbage. So again, I could give a crap less about this game, so just because I got to pick someone to win this game, I'm going to take the Raiders to win. Because they're the home team, and because the Browns, still, they have that road losing streak going. They have not won a road game since week 2 of last year, so they have lost 12 straight road games, and until they snap that road losing streak, I'm picking against them on the road every single time, so I'm taking the Raiders to win this one over Cleveland. If I get it wrong, I really don't care. I won't lose any sleep over this game if I get this game wrong, but I'm taking Vegas to win. Then we got the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Philly continues to roll. They are 8-2 on the year. How about that win they had against the Detroit Lions on Sunday night, where they won 16-9? Their defense has been phenomenal. I mean, we all knew the Eagles' defense was really good, but I didn't think they could be this good. They held Detroit to 9 points, and the week before, they held Green Bay to 7 points, okay? The Eagles allowed as many points as they scored on Sunday night than they did in the last 2 weeks. That's how good this Philadelphia defense is, and that's why they're the defending champs. And if their defense is heating up at this point of the season, and if Philly ends up being the 1 seed, which they currently are the 1 seed in the NFC, and the playoffs have to go through Philadelphia, they are going to be a very difficult team to beat in the playoffs. The offense has been kind of stuck in neutral, but, the offense really doesn't need to, really go off if their defense is playing this good. They're not running the ball as much as they did with Barkley last year, but the passing game is still really good. And of course, you got the tush push, which shockingly, Philly got stopped on a couple of tush pushes against Detroit. So, yeah, the Lions, their defense is really underappreciated. I know Detroit's banged up on defense, but no one really gives the Lions defense any credit. They got a really under-the-radar defense. And if they're that good to stop the tush push with Jalen Hurts of all people, yeah, I think the Lions defense deserves some respect. So that's Philly for you right there. Cowboys are 4-5-1. They won 33-16 over Vegas on Monday night. And the Cowboys, they're kind of like the opposite of the Eagles a bit, where their offense is really dynamic and it's really capable of going off, but their defense stinks. Their defense allows a lot of big plays. Their defense can't stop anyone consistently. And I think if Philly is to get out of their little funk on offense with a great passing game, this is going to be the game to do it against the Cowboys defense. So yeah, the Eagles' offense absolutely needs to go off here. The Cowboys just don't have that defense that can stop the tush push of all plays. And they don't even have that type of defense to stop Saquon Barkley or lock down a guy like A.J. Brown, or even stop Jalen Hurts' mobility in the pocket and his running game. So, like I said, the Cowboys' offense, they got a very good offense. They probably could score some points in this game against Philly. But the fact is, I just have too much faith in this Philly defense for the Cowboys to even be remotely good as they were in weeks past. Because the Cowboys' offense did stall out a couple of times this season, like against the Chicago Bears earlier in the year. And if you remember, between these two teams back in week 1, when they played on the season opener in a Thursday night game, Dallas honestly could have won that game if they did like one or two things differently. And that was also the game where Jalen Carter spit on Dak Prescott of all people, and he got ejected before the first play even began. It happened like right after the opening kickoff. So yeah, that was a mouthful to say. So this game may be better than what you might think, but I'm still going to go ahead and take the Eagles to win this game. They're the hotter hand. They're the way better team. Whereas I do expect the Cowboys to give them a game, and I do expect Dallas to put some points on the board against Philly. But in the end, I just think Philly is going to overwhelm them on offense. They're going to take advantage of Dallas's defense being bad. And the Eagles walk away 9-2. I think this is going to be their 5th straight win, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's going to be at least their 4th, but I think it'd be their 5th straight win. But I got Philly winning this game to go to 9-2 and essentially wrap up the NFC East and really put the foot down as far as the NFC, as far as the 1 seed goes in the NFC. So I'm taking Philly to win. Next, we got a strong contender for the toilet bowl of the week, but I think the aforementioned Browns-Raiders game 1 upset. But this is by no means an upgrade. We got the Falcons and the Saints down in New Orleans. The Falcon, I don't know why this is a 4:30 game. This should be a 1 o'clock game. But anyway, Falcons and the Saints. Atlanta has lost 5 in a row. They are absolute garbage, and I am so glad that I adopted the I am not picking the Falcons until I know for a fact that I can moniker, because every time I've picked against Atlanta, they've lost. So that's good right there. Falcons lost that game to Carolina, and they're done. Atlanta's not come back from this. They're done. Michael Penix suffered a knee injury. It was revealed to be a re-aggravated bone bruise that he suffered earlier, and it is very possibly season-ending. As a matter of fact, I think they came out and said that it is season-ending. So they're looking at Kirk Cousins starting this game for Atlanta, and Kirk Cousins, when he played last year with the Falcons, and even at some points this year, it did not look good. So, yeah, Atlanta is in major trouble. Plus, Drake London also got hurt in the Panthers game. It's not a serious injury for Drake London, but he's still hurt, and he's not going to be 100% in this game. So, Atlanta is very handicapped on offense here. Then you got the Saints. They're a terrible team as well, but the last time they played, they're coming off of a very impressive win over the Panthers where they won 17-7, and now they're coming off their bye week when they came off of a win. So the Saints are actually kind of building some momentum. I think Tyler Shuck is going to get the start again for the Saints. I think he made his debut in that game against Carolina, and the Saints defense looked impressive. I mean, the Saints, even though they're an awful team, I am not denying that at all. Even though the Saints are awful, their defense can show up at times, and I think if their offense just does enough to get their defense off the field, the Saints might have a chance to win this game. So, I'm actually going to go ahead and take the Saints to be my upset of the week. I think New Orleans defense shows up, takes advantage of a crippled Atlanta offense, takes advantage of an old Kirk Cousins, and I think the Saints, they build off that momentum against the Panthers, and I think the Saints pick up the win, which actually hurts their number 1 overall pick draft value, but it may be a moot point because the Titans play the Seahawks. But regardless, I am going to take the Saints to beat the Falcons. Sunday Night Football, we got a pretty good one out in LA between the Tampa Bay Bucs and the LA Rams in LA. So the Bucs are coming off of that 44-32 loss to the Bills. The Bucs got off to a great start to the year. I think they were 5-1 through 6 games, and the Bucs have struggled lately. They have lost 3 out of their last 4. They're still good at 6-4. They still lead the NFC South for the time being, but I don't know if you can call the Bucs a Super Bowl contender right now. Granted, I know they're injured. I know most of their offense is very banged up, and they're going to miss Mike Evans for the remainder of the season, but Tampa, Like, Baker Mayfield had a pretty mediocre game against Buffalo, but he was still able to work to the best of his abilities. So, yeah, Tampa, we know they can put up some points on offense, but without what they have on offense weaponry, it's just going to be a very tough game for Tampa. As for the Rams, these two teams are kind of alike because they both have a very good set of weapons on offense. So these two teams are kind of alike, but the difference is LA is healthier. Okay, they got Puka Nacua. I think he's going to be playing this game. They got Devontae Adams. They got a nice run game. Matthew Stafford continues to have the most efficient season of his career. He is absolutely in the MVP talks. And I think the difference maker here is LA's defense. That Rams defense is the epitome of bend but don't break. And what I mean by that is that LA, sure, they may allow a couple of big splash plays on offense, because I was watching most of that Seahawks-Rams game, and I'm like, okay, a lot of people say the Steelers' defense is bend but don't break, but LA is bend but don't break, but they actually do it the correct way. They do allow some big plays here and there, but the Rams' defense, doesn't ever, completely fold, okay? So that's what happened in that Seahawks game right there. They got 4 interceptions off of Sam Darnold, which, if you had the Rams defense on fantasy, I applaud you. That was a pretty good pick. That was the best pickup that you had. And this defense just continues to fly under the radar as far as defense goes. They only allow 17 points a game, and they absolutely get after the quarterback. So I think if they apply enough pressure on Baker Mayfield here, and they make him work with the very limited options that he has on offense here, because they're all banged up, LA has a great chance of winning. So, credit to the Bucs. I think they'll give the Rams a good game, but in the end, I'm going to go with the Rams to win it out over the Bucs. I think Matthew Stafford is going to lead the Rams down the field enough. He's going to stretch the field a lot. He's going to move the chains. They're going to get it done with their weapons. I like LA to come out on top of this one over the Bucs. And concluding Week 12, we got Monday Night Football. Low-key, pretty good game here. We got the Carolina Panthers at the 49ers out in San Francisco. So the Panthers, they are coming off of a win in overtime against Atlanta, and all of a sudden the Panthers are 6-5 through 11 games. The Panthers are playing some pretty quality football right now. Who would have thought Carolina would be in this predicament at this point in the season? They are only a half game back of the Bucs for first place in the NFC South. So if LA does in fact win and Carolina wins this game, the Panthers are going to be in first place. So yeah, Carolina's actually playing some decent football, and so much so that Bryce Young did what no other Panthers quarterback ever did. He had a career day. 448 yards passing for Bryce Young, which set a franchise record. Not even Cam Newton or Jake Delhomme were able to do that with the Panthers. So, massive shout out to Bryce Young. He had a phenomenal game. Rico Dowdle also had a 100-yard game. So if the Panthers get a quality run game here going, and they can just have Bryce Young be the guy to win it, because now he's shown that he can do it, Carolina could be in good shape. That said, defense needs to step up a bit more. For the 49ers, they had a dominant win over the Cardinals. I know 41-22 suggests that it was semi-close, but no, that game wasn't really close. It was 35-10 at one point, and the Cardinals basically just got a bunch of garbage time points. It was similar to the Cardinals-Seahawks game from the week before. So San Francisco 7-4, still very much alive in the NFC playoff picture despite everything they've went through this year. And as for the 49ers, I don't know if Brock Purdy's going to play. I think he will. I don't know if Mac Jones is going to play, but this just shows you what kind of offense they have under Shanahan. It's a plug-and-play type of QB system for San Francisco. They can make any other quarterback look good in that offense right there, and I just trust what the 49ers are able to do offensively. So, for that matter, I think I'm going to go ahead and take the 49ers to win this one over the Panthers in a closer game than what people think. I think the Panthers will give them a good game, but in the end, I just think CMC, getting him the ball is going to be very effective in this game, and I think he'll be the biggest X factor for why San Francisco wins. But I will not be shocked if Carolina pulls off the win here. But for the sake of it, I'm going to go ahead and take the 49ers to win and get to 8-4 and continue that stacked NFC West. But I'm taking San Francisco. And that'll wrap things up for Week 12. And let's continue the momentum, man. Tourney members, you know the drill. And even if you're not in the tourney, I would love to hear your picks down in the comments below. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next one.